So next question comes from Kudos, aka Kyle Pryor. He's asking what our ideal pro scene would look like for Street Fighter 6. Maybe a more invite only thing run by Capcom? Question mark.
Hmm. Also, like more invitational stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I think that's gonna be the direction for sure. But I don't think that they should neglect grassroots. I think that there can be a some harmony between the two. Of course, you have your invitationals and stuff like that, right? There can be invitationals that are separated from CPT, just like its own thing, right? And you have different themes, different structured tournaments and stuff, unique stuff, right? They could do that, and then they could also cater to the grassroots stuff, like the CPT, right? Where it leads up to that, end of the year thing, and maybe there's less spots, right? Um, I don't know, but I think there can definitely be a balance between the two.
So
CPT itself probably would, take on the same tradition of the all these grassroots tournaments that culminate, they accumulate points and they lead up to placements, blah blah blah. But I think they should still have those like invitational stuff, like on the side, like the SFLs, right? And just Rage tournament. That was another pretty cool thing that they did in Japan. But Japan is the only place that has these things. Like their SF, they gotta chill out with the differences between like Europe doesn't even have an SFL. I think that's kind of crazy, right? But the difference between the US version and Japan's is like Japan had 5 players on a team, right? US had 3 players, and it's like I just think stuff like that gotta get.
let me paint you a picture. And this is not necessarily my ideal situation, but let's talk about official leagues, Street Fighter leagues,
Mhm.
for example. So for a while in Europe, there was Gfinity, where they did, I believe it was like FIFA, Rocket League, and Street Fighter Five,
Yep.
if I'm not mistaken. And essentially, the way it worked is teams would buy into this or were brought in, however it was done, and then players would be drafted by the teams externally, brought to the team, and then paid a certain amount of money to play per month, something like that.
Mhm.
My take on this is I do agree that there can definitely be a lot more synergy, and I think that something like Gfinity is where we should probably end up if we're gonna keep going with this team thing, as the other
Mhm.
esports genres have done. It makes a lot more sense for us to do something like a league, but I don't think it should be disconnected from the grassroots tournaments. In fact, I think it should be directly connected, like a funnel. So I think that the grassroots open bracket tournaments. Let's. I'll just build something random right now that I think will probably work. You enter a tournament and you win. Then if you win a tournament, not generating points, if you win a tournament, or maybe you do a point base, you then you take the top 16 players or whatever, and then you have teams draft from those players from the teams they already have at the moment, right? So if you're a pro, you're a pro. You don't get to open. You don't get to enter the open brackets. That diminishes the point,
Mhm.
right? So Punk, Idom, all the default ones that have probably already made the cut and are on the team, they're just getting their salary. There's no point for them to enter this bracket to essentially cock block other
Mhm.
people, right?
Yep.
And then if you make the cut, however they want to do it, you then enter a funneled system where then teams will draft you for their team for this league,
That's interesting.
right? And that way, what you have is people competing for an end goal, not just for a random win that means nothing.
Mhm. That's interesting. I guess the only thing that might frustrate the players that are already a part of that, because they're like, yo, so now we don't get to play as much
No,
because of.
you can play, but the league can be a thing that's always happening, right? But what's happening while this league is happening is other players will be in the open bracket for the next season of the league.
Hmm.
So you're training. It makes a lot more sense for pro players to train for pro players. Like you don't want to worry about random Joe Schmo in pools and have to train a bunch of matchups. If you know your opponent is, I don't know, let's say Liquid back in the day, right? It
Hmm.
was like Knuckle Doo. It was pretty just Knuckle Doo. But let's say Knuckle Doo is going to be your opponent, then you can train for Knuckle Doo.
Right.
It makes a lot more sense as a pro to train that way. as opposed to just like, here's an open bracket. Oh, here's a new character you don't know anything about. Well, GG's.
Right.
I think that the way our game is designed, it makes a lot more sense to give us time to train for a character and a person, like boxing or MMA, than it does to just like have an open bracket for the best players in the world. Just, like, I think the open bracket should be to prove yourself that you can win, you can be consistent, you can beat some of the strongest players in the world. Then you're given an opportunity to sign with a team. If the team wants to stay with you long term because you perform phenomenally in the league, then okay, they do. But if they don't, let's say you go in there, you get washed by everyone, then all right, back to the open brackets with you. That try again, or maybe they keep you signed if they want to, right? Maybe they're like, they see something in you. I don't know, like that. At that point, that's your agreement with the team from that point moving forward. But it gives you a clear chance and opportunity to go from point A to point B. You get a shot regardless. That makes more sense to me if we're gonna go down any path like that. I think that's actually worth more than just having a grand prize at Capcom Cup. Like, just take all that money and funnel it into paying these players individually for making the cup. And then the team gets the glory.
But of course, they're always going to have some sort of grand prize. They can't get rid of that, because then there's no pinnacle. They have to have some sort of a pinnacle. It's not just yeah, you guys win, right? But like, it has to be some outlandish $1 million pot or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Think about like professional pro teams, right? When you're in a pro team, the big thing you're looking at is your monthly salary, your monthly pay, not that grand prize if you happen to win the championship, right? The advantage you have is the fact that you're getting paid. I think there's more value into being a pro player if you're just guaranteed paid and keeping your spot on the team, which is what every professional pro player does, is just staying good enough to be on the team that they want to do. And then winning is usually more of a secondary way to have income. This is income, not like, not success, just income. And if they want to do, I don't know, I'm saying that basically they can take some of that and prioritize paying the players. And if they want to do a big event and have a prize, they can. But I don't think that most players, 99.9999% of players, are going to complain if they make it into the pro and then they get the minimum salary to play for that team.
That makes sense.
Most situations, the team gets the money, not the players, because the players are already getting paid salary. So
that makes sense.
That's between the team and the league, not the players and the
league. They could probably do like revenue splits of like tickets and merchandise and shit like that. Yeah, that makes sense.